Hi, I'm Barry Sahajian. This video is walking blues lines. I've done a few videos on walking and there was a lot of great response, and I did cover some important facts, strong and weak beats, and how you place the chord tones of where and how to approach them. I think having a solid foundation of being able to walk on a 12-bar blues progression is very important. It's very important because if you ever go to a jam session, or even when you're on a gig, there's always a blues form popping up somewhere or the other, a song with the blues or just a blues jam. That is a common denominator. Let's play a blues, and bingo, you're playing. It's simple, you're expected to know it, except you need to know a couple of little details so you can communicate and play the blues correctly. It's not complicated, but there are some changes you'd have to be aware of to make sure you're thinking on the same terms as the other players or the other player. I'd like to point out something about this video. I created this video for the absolute beginner bass player, perhaps that never even played the blues before. I presented it in certain ways that were very simple, and hopefully it will be useful. I did it in open positions. I did it in the key of E and the key of A. These are the most popular blues keys. I created very simple lines, and the left-hand fingering is using, for the most part, the index and the ring finger, which is very popular with beginners. Many of them do not develop the baby finger for a little bit after that. So I just wanted to let you know, maybe you're further along, and if you are, I have other videos better suited for somebody that is further along playing the blues. There are variations on the blues styles, and it starts with the most common, purest type of blues, John Lee Hooker and things like that from the past, and they have a certain way of playing the blues. It's very basic. That's what most pop musicians will encounter. Then there's jazz blues. Now, jazz blues is a little more complicated. It uses jazz harmony and substitutes. It's not that much, but if all you know is rock and pop type blues and someone wants to play from a jazz angle, it's not going to really work. It won't sound right to them. It won't feel good. So that's something I feel you should study individually at another time and learn the basics of it right now. So we are starting with the E blues progression. As you can see, we have a neck diagram and the tablature. And what this is simply a 7th chord arpeggio, an E 7th chord arpeggio. You get the root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, and then the root again, the octave. What I did, as I explained earlier, is that I am using my index and my ring finger. And we're simply playing the arpeggio. It is a 2-bar phrase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does it 2 times, which equals 4 measures. We're now working on the 5th measure of an E blues progression, in which case you'll be using the 4-7 chord, or an A7. You'll notice the shape is identical to the E7, except it's up 1 string. So that's easy enough. Just move it up, play it the same way, same position and fingering. Now we are on measure 7 and 8, which is the same as measure 1 and 2, E7 chord again. We're now going to play measures 9, 10, 11, and 12, the last 4 measures of our E blues progression. When you hit measure 9, it is only 1 measure, and everything else we've done so far is a 2-measure phrase. So what do? You cut the phrase in half, sort of. And what you would do, the 5 chord would be on measure 9, which is a B7. You just play the triad. You could just play the triad, rather. This is my choice. Next we have measure 10. This would be the 4 chord in a blues progression, and it would be an A7. Measure 10 is only 1 measure. So once again, we have to cut the line in half. And I'm going to do it the same way using a triad. 1, 3, 5, 3, like this. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 measure. Measures 11 and 12 are the last 2 measures of our 12-bar blues in the key of E. They are identical to the first 2 measures of our 12-bar blues. Now we're into the second example, which is the example I played in the introduction in the key of A blues. So let me play it for you one time, the 4 measures, the 2 2-bar phrases, which equals 4 measures, and then I'll explain what's happening. What you'll notice right away is I went from the root third, 5th third, as opposed to the E line was root third, 5th, 7th, and then. So it sounds a little different. It's a variation. So we play those 2-bar phrases twice, and there you will have your first 4 measures of your A blues progression. Next, we're going to be playing measures 5 and 6, which we're going to use a 4/7 chord. And we're starting on the D, and we're going to play it like this. You notice it's not the same as how we played the 1 chord. We can't play it the same because we don't have another string to go to. We had a range of 3 strings from the A string, D string, G string, but starting on the D, we don't have that additional string. So we could go up the neck a little bit to play the line like we played it on the 1 chord, but then we'd go out of position and it would create, a shift. And I'd like to stay away from that on this example because I want it to be simple and so it can be executed easily, and you can play it fast if you want. If you go out of position, it makes it difficult. I will play it in the same range as I played that 1 chord, and I'll show you what's going to happen. I had to go up to the octave to make it the same as the 1 chord line. So I'd like to eliminate that because, you could also play it like this. And then you get a shift again to go back to the 1 chord. So what I did was I played it like this. Instead of 1, 3, 5, 7 octave, I played 1, 3, 5, 3, 7, 5, 3, 5. There was only a small shift there, just 1 fret. And you can go right back to the 1 chord very easily. Not only that, that slight variation I did on the 4 chord makes it more interesting too. It breaks up the monotony of playing something over and over again. Now we're on to measures 9, 10, 11, and 12. So let me go over 9, and I did something that's interesting here. I hope you like it. I like it. It feels great. And what I'm doing is I'm starting from the 5 chord from the low E. This is an ascending line, 2 ascending lines in a row, starting with the 5 chord on measure 9. So the theory behind this is it's a root, third, fifth, and we're putting a sixth in. And that sixth is most common in the boogie line, which you will see. Maybe you've already played boogie lines. They use that six a lot in the boogie lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, root, third, fifth, sixth. Now we're on measure 10. We're going to the fourth chord, which is a D7th, and we're starting it on the D string using the same shape as we used on the 5 chords starting from E. Root, third, 5, 6. Now I would like to play them together, and both lines ascend, and it gives you this lift. It feels great from the 5 chords starting on E. Before I close this video out, I have a couple of more things to discuss. I must tell you and warn you about a couple of variations that happen all the time and unexpectedly, because like I said, if someone says, let's play a blues, they're not going to warn you of these things. They're just going to play the blues the way they want to or have learned to or whatever, and you have to be aware and listen as you start playing your blues progression, because it might be different than you expect. And that will be on the second measure and on the last measure, as illustrated up above. So you watch out for that, and really the only way you're going to know is until they stop playing. No one's going to say, well, I use a 4 on the second measure, or I put a 5/7 at the last measure. You don't know that, and they're not going to give you a chart because you're expected to know the blues. So here it is, and thanks for coming by. I ask you might subscribe. If you like this video, hit the bell to be notified of all the videos yet to come. And check out my Patreon page. You can download the charts at my Patreon page.